The Timeless Cup is the meta in the Silph Arena for the month of December. This actually extends into early January. I think the cutoff is January 8th, just to make up for the lack of weekends that the holidays might have. So if you want to know what the good meta picks are for the Timeless Cup, let's get into it. So of course, this is the infographic made by Lorman96, and the information in this video is going to be based off of the GamePress article. So if you want more details than what I'm going to be giving you in this video, definitely check out the article in the description. The interesting thing about this cup is that you can pick one starter type Pokemon from generations 1 through 4, which basically means that you're gonna pick what, Swampert, Venusaur, Meganium, or Blaziken. Realistically, as far as which starter is the best or which starter you should choose, I want to do that in a separate video because that does get to be detail heavy. This video, meta simplified. This video may inspire you to just pick your starter to begin with. And then on top of that, there are no fighting, normal, fairy, flying, except for Charizard with them wings flapping, causing whirlwind, steel types, psychic types. Banned. Because there is no steel and there is no fairy, the prima ballerina of the Timeless Cup for sure is going to be the Dragonair. Now, as far as Dragonair's moveset goes, Dragon Breath, obviously, and its best charge move overall is going to be Aqua Tail. As far as the secondary charge move goes, do you want Return, Wrap, or the Dragon Pulse? Well, Return and Wrap, the jury is kind of out right now. Return has a lower energy cost and it has better damage per energy, but Wrap does do more base damage for a slightly higher energy cost. The Return is kind of annoying to get because you have to do rocket battles and then you have to purify, so getting a good stat product with the purified Dragonair is kind of a hassle. Maybe you already have a non-purified one built. Honestly, at this moment, I'm going to say Wrap's not all that different. Me and the GamePress crew have lightly looked into it, and so far, no conclusions there. Now, as far as the Return and the Dragon Pulse go, King Ive has done an excellent breakdown on that. Link up above and description to King Ive's breakdown. Now, the TLDR of that breakdown is the Return Wrap is going to be the more consistent move. It's going to be able to close more matchups out more consistently, where the Dragon Pulse is like the surprise nuke. If you land it, that's phenomenal. But if you don't land it, they shield it, well then Dragonair is kind of boned. So make your decisions based off of that. Because the Dragon Pulse is so threatening though, I will recommend that if you can, tap like you're charging up to a Dragon Pulse, even if you don't have it, because when you whip out your charge moves, that will incentivize your opponent to shield, because they don't want to get hit by a Dragon Pulse. And until they know that you have Dragon Pulse or not, you absolutely have Dragon Pulse. Similar mind games. Even though Aqua Tail is the best move, you may also want to consider going with Return or Wrap comboed with the Dragon Pulse. In Game 1, you just use straight Return Wrap. Game 2 or 3, whichever one you bring the Dragonair back in, they are now under the opinion that you do not have the Dragon Pulse because obviously you have Aqua Tail to combo with the normal move, right? Psych! You got Dragon Pulse. So I think there will be some mind game galore for such a simple Pokemon that is the most meta-relevant Pokemon for this cup. Dragonair is so freaking good, in fact, that going with a Kingdra combo-ween is not a bad idea. Doubling up on the Dragon Breath. In fact, Kingdra is pretty devastating in this cup too. In a 1-0 shield situation, yeah, Kingdra just beats everything. And on top of that, a Kingdra should be able to beat a Dragonair as well. So Kingdra double Dragon, not a bad idea. Now, if you're thinking triple Dragon with that Shelgion that the Ferocious Cup made you power up and unlock a second move for, Shelgion ain't it, really. Double Dragon is enough Dragon. Shelgion can stay in the bench, forgotten about, until the Ferocious Cup, Mirror Cup. All-powerful dragons. How do we answer them? We don't have Steel types. We don't have Fairy types. We answer them with Ice-type Pokemon. The master Ice-type Pokemon here is definitely going to be the Lapras. And the reason why Lapras gets the spotlight on the infographic here is because it has Surf, allowing it to manage Fire-type Pokemon better than Celio can. By all respects, Celio is as good, if not better, than Lapras is, especially if you don't expect to run into Fire-type Pokemon. So keep that in the back of your mind. On top of that, Lapras is only this good with the Legacy Ice Shard. So if you do not have a Legacy Ice Shard Lapras, or you cannot get a Legacy Ice Shard Lapras, fret not. In the Swag opinion, Celio is potentially better than Lapras in a lot of ways. And it does win the mirror against Lapras, IV spread depending, shield, bait, nonsense, and prior energy depending. At the end of the day, Lapras does not want to fight Celio, and Celio just has to go straight body slam and not even have to think when fighting the Lapras. As far as Lapras's moveset goes, Ice Shard for sure, Surf for sure, the final charge move. It might break your heart, but it is Skull Bash. Skull Bash does basically everything Ice Beam does, and more. And it also increases your defense stat. Now, the 1 stage increase in the defense stat on such a high energy cost move isn't that game breaking, but the coverage and the DPE of Skull Bash is. It's really good. So if you do want to win with the Lapras, you got the Ice Shard, the Ice Beam. You're gonna have to cut that cord, man. You gotta do it for the win. Celio, second charge move. I'm feeling Aurora Beam, because a good way to break up a doubled up Lapras Celio core is by just going with a heavy grass-type Pokemon. What retaliates against those grass-type Pokemon best than the unexpected Aurora Beam? Overall, I feel like Celio is going to be body slamming 99.99% of the time anyways, so you could thrift without the secondary charge move, but right now I'm feeling the Aurora Beam. I think the other one's Aqua Pulse, Water Pulse, Water Pulse. You'd only really want to go with that if you're concerned about Fire-type Pokemon, but I don't think Fire-type Pokemon are really it. My coin is going for the Celio. Other Ice-type Pokemon, you do have the Cast Form. I think that's just more of a meme, to be honest. And then you also have the Drapion. Drapion has Ice Fang, and it is actually extremely aggressive. It is a Ice-type Pokemon that resists the Razor Leaf, which is actually pretty big. I believe Drapion does beat all the other Poison-type Pokemon too with the Ice Fang set. So a very aggressive Ice-type Pokemon to combo with either Lapras or Celio. Or maybe you could go with all three. I don't know if that'd be too spicy though. More on that in the future. By the way, if you're curious about the Lapras versus Lapras mirror, when do I use Surf? When do I use the Skull Bash? There's actually a pretty good analysis on the YouTube channel for the battles, link up above in the description as well, to help your consistency in the Lapras mirror. So if the ice types are so freaking good, how do we most consistently deal with them? Well, one option is to go with a Razor Leaf spammer, most notably the Ludicolo or potentially the Abomasnow, because they take neutral damage from the ice type attacks, and then they're able to just whip out the super effective Razor Leafs that ruin their entire lives. Another good option against the ice types, not featured in the main ring here, rock types. I'm just gonna say the rock types. Blaziken is in this group too because it's got counter damage. Functions a little bit more differently, and it's a starter, so more details on Blaziken in a future video. As far as the rock types go, I feel like the Sudowoodo here is a little bit too much of a meme. Could work out. I feel like it's too much of a meme, and I feel like the Omastar just isn't exactly worth it. If you want to go for a rock type Pokemon to deal with the ice type Pokemon, I absolutely recommend going with Relicanth or the Kabutops. Now Relicanth, I know, super regional Pokemon. If you didn't get the DC event one, you don't have it. Put it out of your mind. Relicanth isn't that big of a deal. What is a big deal though is the Kabutops. Either Fury Cutter or Mudshot does not matter. What matters is having the Ancient Power and the Stone Edge. It's basically like the Nidoqueen of this particular meta. You have the Ancient Power because it's the earlier charge move. Maybe you might get that cool 10% chance boost off of it, which would be completely swag. And then you've got the Stone Edge to just smack things. You know, all those Razor Leaf Pokemon that are coming in to counter this Rock Water type Pokemon, like, ooh, I got Razor Leaf, I'm double super effective to your butt. Bam! Be gone! Rock, attack, Stone Edge. Annihilate them with Kabutops. Pretty good. But because of the weakness to the grass type attacks, rock type Pokemon are a bit risque. Lantern, jury's kind of out on Lantern for me right now. It's good, but I don't think it's good. You know what I mean? Rock type Pokemon aside, not only the grass type Pokemon threaten them, but we also have the straight up water type group highlighted by the Lorma 96 here. So first off, we have the Mud Boys, we got Swampert, we got the Quagsire, the Swagzire master right there, and we have Daddy Cash. So we got some interesting triangle stuff going on with the Mud Boys here. You got Swampert, who loses to the Swagzire. Swagzire loses to Daddy Cash. Daddy Cash loses to the Swampert. So choose a Mud Boy if you want to. The Mud Boys do carry like as much risk as the rock types do because grass types double super effective against them. You may want to consider not rolling with a Mud Boy or somebody in this corner as well. And then we also have Blastoise here as a starter, and I will mention that Blastoise is interesting. You think you know how the Blastoise matchups go, but that's not how it be. It's not how that be so much that I haven't looked into it too much. Another reason, starter breakdown in a future video. And then Milotic's also pretty interesting as well because it's got the dragon type damage to deal with the dragon type Pokemon, so don't count Milotic out. I guess it's time to talk about the grass types. Alright, so Lapras, Celio, all them water type Pokemon I just mentioned, what scares them? Grass type Pokemon scare them. Yeah, so first we got the two big starter Pokemon, Venusaur and Meganium. Right now in this video I just want to say Venusaur looks like the hottest pick for the starter Pokemon. I personally feel Meganium might be a bit better, more in the starter type breakdown, but the TLDR is I feel like the ground type Earthquake might be more relevant, and Meganium does have an advantage against Dragonair. It can actually win with a bait, which is pretty impressive. That aside, if you're not using these as your starter, or you want to go for a Vine Whip plus a Razor Leafer strategy, well, you got the Razor Leaf Pokemon to consider. Victory Bell is straight aggro, really heavy damage going on, dies pretty quickly, but it can throw out an early Leaf Blade, or it could Acid Spray something down to lower their defense stat, weakening them for your next Pokemon to come in. Ludicolo has the sub-water typing, so it's more vulnerable to other grass type Pokemon, but it is better against the Lapras and the Celio. And on top of that, Ludicolo has Ice Beam. Now I'm not saying that you are going to land the Ice Beam on things, but you could. You could. No shields. Maybe they're not even thinking about it. Maybe they're in a situation where they really want that shield for something else. Ludicolo dancing around, coming in. It's Ice Beam time. Didn't think I had it, did ya? You got it, and that could be the win. So Ludicolo looking pretty pimp right now. And then you also have like Gloom to consider, and once you get into the Gloom range, you could consider a lot of different Razor Leaf Grass type Pokemon. The thing that Gloom has going for it, the reason why Gloom always comes to the top in this type of discussion is because it is tankier than the others. And if you do go with the Gloom, you're going to have the Return Gloom because it's a charge move that you can actually use on Gloom. Then we got the final group in this cup, which is the hot poisons over here. The fire types and the poison type Pokemon. And to be honest, I don't know why Lorma didn't include Muck in this group, because I feel like Muck definitely deserves to be in this group here. More on that in a little bit. So starting out, the fire type Pokemon. Right now, Ryan Swag is not completely sold on the fire type Pokemon. There is potential for Ninetales because it does have the Psy Shock, but ultimately I feel like the fire types are going to have way too much going against them, and their ability to like resist Razor Leaf isn't that big of a deal because the poison types, guess what, man? They also resist grass type damage. So right now, jury's a little bit out for me on the fire type Pokemon. Maybe if you want to use Charizard as your starter, that could be an option. And I guess Blaziken's technically a fire type Pokemon, even though its job is like slightly different. But right now, I'm not feeling the hot fire types. What I am feeling though are the poison types. So first off, we do have the Venomoth. You might remember Venomoth from Twilight Cup, where it was insane. Its whole insane thing was that it had confusion, and the confusion just annihilated poison type Pokemon. Everybody's like favorite grass type Pokemon over here, for the most part, are weak to the confusion damage. And if they're not, then they're actually weak to Poison Fang and Silverwind, which is a move that's neutral to the poison type having grass types. So overall, I'd say Venomoth is pretty dang threatening for this cup. As far as the Poison Fang Legacy move goes on the Venomoth, I feel like it's in the same situation as the Twilight Cup. If you have the Legacy Poison Fang, it will be that much more consistent, but you're not completely lost without it either. It's just like that extra level of consistency. If you do not have the Poison Fang Venomoth, right now my money is on the Psychic Venomoth as the other second charge move, or just rolling with just straight Silverwind and saving yourself some Stardust. The Psychic could help you nail some like rock type Pokemon potentially, so I feel like there is a pretty good argument for the Psychic. Not so much the Return, in my opinion, at this time. Now, there's a poison type that beats Venomoth, right? Yeah, we got some more triangle shenanigans going on. The Skuntank beats the Venomoth and does the poison type job quite well, and the Skuntank has a little bit more threat in the charge move department than the Venomoth has, with the neutral crunch damage and the stab sludge bombs. And in this cup, you may also want to consider using Flamethrower. Right now, I'm not 100% sure if you want to go with the Sludge Bomb or the Flamethrower. What I will say is that the Flamethrower does win the mirror and does super effective damage to the Poison Grass Pokemon, where Sludge Bomb is only neutrally effective and will lose the mirror. Jot that down. Then finally, we have Muck. And I feel like Lorma might have done Muck dirty. Maybe Lorma's got to update this graphic. I don't know. But Muck is awesome. So Muck loses to Venomoth, but it beats the Skuntank. So that's one thing. Another thing going for Muck is that it can beat the Dragonair. It can beat the Lapras, and it can beat the Celio. Thing is that there's going to be some shield baiting going on for a lot of that. It's not 100% consistent, of course, but I feel like that drop of swag could be pretty soft big for the Muck. One thing that really does wreck Muck, other than Venomoth just showing up and using Confusion, are the Mud Boys. But I feel like the Mud Boys are in such a weird kind of position that not every 6 is going to have a Mud Boy. Every 6 is also probably not going to have a Venomoth. And in the absence of a Venomoth or a Mud Boy in your opponent's 6, I feel like that makes Muck an incredibly safe switch in. I think there's a lot of swag for Muck. I don't think Muck has so much swag that you're going to have to run a Venomoth or a Mud Boy to prepare for Muck. I just feel like Muck is there, and Muck can work. Definitely look into the Muck. As far as Swalot goes, haven't really looked too much into the Swalot. I always feel like Swalot's kind of like the weird bottom of the barrel of the poison type Pokemon. Definitely worth looking into though, especially if you love his little mustache whiskers and his little like face going on. And then finally, the one group I didn't mention yet are the ghost type Pokemon. Now, I'm not really sold on Banette or the Spiritomb here. They're good, but I feel like if you're going to consider anything, it's going to be Haunter. As always with Haunter, well, almost always, you're going to want to have the Legacy Shadow Ball. Good news is Haunter is not like spooky, scary, insane like it was in Sinister Cup. Haunter is just kind of there. If it gets an energy lead, it can be very threatening, but at the end of the day, it needs to get Shadow Balls to land a lot of KOs, and it doesn't always get the Shadow Balls. So I feel like Haunter is worth looking into. Absolutely not a must-have for your team slot, especially since Venomoth exists, and Venomoth can just be like, what up? And the Mud Boys exist, and the Mud Boys can just say what's up too. Watch out, Haunter. At any rate, that is my Timeless Cup Meta Simplified. Make sure to check out the article on GamePress if you want more details on these Pokemon and their matchups. Lorma puts way more work into this than I do. If you got any questions on this content, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this content, you want to see more like it, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips, man. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you're not aware, I got a Patreon. Patreon helps me fuel a video editor, so if you'd like to keep the swag train rolling on, check out Patreon. PV Poke. Alright, so straight acid spray, and of course we're going to go with the most ultimate Tentacruel. We're up against the Dragonair, and then, because we are doing straight acid spray, we're going to say no shield. I mean, not that it matters, but... Oh dang, that's actually pretty good. Do we need to look at Tentacruel more? Oh ho ho! Ho ho! Ho ho ho! Ho ho! Ho ho! But yeah, I think Tentacruel actually has some serious spice